This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees is called to order. We do have the presence of a quorum. The meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. It does not look like we have any public participants, so we'll go ahead and move on to our action items. The first of which is consideration and action on an order calling a bond election for May 7th, 2022, making provisions for conducting the election and ordering other materials, matters, incident, and related to such election. And this is
Mr. Chairman, the recommendation is in front of the board today. We did have a presentation, a pretty extensive presentation on Tuesday evening, February the 8th. All the information that you received last night will be available via YouTube as it was recorded, along with information on the website pertaining to the proposed bond election if adopted today.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Before I take a motion for this particular item, does anybody have any comments or questions pertaining thereto?
Happy to reiterate what I said the other night. I think it's a great plan. I'm excited about it. I'm happy to do whatever we need to do to make it happen.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez, anybody else?
I'll have some comments after we get a motion.
Good deal.
We want to do that.
I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on this matter.
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Mr. Bergfeld?
Yes. I just, after looking over the proposal and, we've all worked on this knowing that it was going to come. Hubbard was part of the original 20-year plan, as it has turned out. And, I think that we never spend taxpayer money. We don't take it for granted here. We never have. We're not some big government entity that just, sits up here and spends people's money. We really take it seriously. We want the public to know that. We realize that Smith County and Tyler is a very conservative place. And we don't, like I say, we don't take that lightly. The businessman in me knows that without a doubt that if we don't value education, and part of that is valuing it through the facilities that we provide for our children, our community's not going to be an attractive place. And I can think of others without naming names that at some point in their history, they let their public school system not be a priority, and their towns are not prosperous now. So for that reason, and I'll also say, we just came out that Tyler was the fastest growing city in the state of Texas by percentage. We don't take credit for that as a school district, but I think there are some, I don't think it's a coincidence totally. I think that the city of Tyler and the citizens and taxpayers have valued education with all of the bonds that we've had to this point. And I think it's helping. I think it's showing up in the business climate that we have here in Tyler. So although, we would love it if these numbers were a little lower. I'm in the construction industry and business, and they're just high, and they're not going to go down. They may level off, but in my 20 years of doing this, you're not going to see a better time than now to support a plan like this. So I wholeheartedly support it and look forward to giving those two facilities the attention they need.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bergfeld. And I'll say this with the timing part, not only are construction prices going up, but interest rates appear to be hiking up as well. So as far as timing goes, I do agree that this is the right time to finish, kind of put a bow on our building program that the community has supported over the last 20 years, and we can't thank them enough for doing that. This is the last piece of a very long project that has been going on, and we have essentially rebuilt Tyler ISD over that time, and I'm so proud of it. And just one more ask out of the community, and we'd definitely appreciate it. So does anybody else have any more comments?
Mr. President, I also want to add that, not only are we fortunate enough to be able to possibly do this for our community and our kids and our district and our school and our teachers, but the fact that our district is so financially responsible that we don't have to ask for a tax increase on our community is a big deal. And that's a true testament to Tasha and the financial girls in our district and what they've done to be able to do that. And so that's a very important piece to this.
No doubt. Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Okay, well, we've passed that, and we will go ahead and move on to item B, which is the consideration and action on an order calling for a general election for school board trustees, single-member districts 1, 3, and 6. Dr. Crawford?
Absolutely. It's every year as we prepare for May elections, municipal elections. This is actually codified into state law and codified in Tyler ISD policy. Single-member districts 1, 3, and 6. It's time for the triplets to actually be in front of the public for an election.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or on this matter? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on item B.
I move that we approve item B.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Looking forward to serving. I know that Ms. Harrison and Ms. Atkins as well are, and it is such an honor to be up here and serve the district and the community in this capacity. And I'm grateful for the 9 years that I've been able to do it. What a ride. So, okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Item C is the consideration and action on an interlocal agreement between Smith County and Tyler ISD for conducting elections.
Yeah, Mr. Washman, item C is a part of that same routine, the same calendar that requires to run elections in Smith County. We are a county-wide voting location county, and our elections administrator for the school system is your board secretary, Ms. Gina Orr. She is in constant working contact and conversation to make sure that the logistics of the elections that we have here on our side are done to an impeccable way. So the recommendation here is to consider approval for that and have that interlocal agreement with Smith County as part of the first step of the process. There will be some other things that y'all have to do here on out as far as approving locations, et cetera. But this is one of the first parts of the process to get the election season started for the Tyler ISD elections.
Good deal. Any questions or comments regarding this particular matter? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the interlocal agreement.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, and the motion carries. On to continuous improvement in student outcomes. We have a T-TESS and walkthrough evaluation update.
Making her way to the presentation table is Ms. Sherry Taylor, our Executive Director of Human Resources. Per the board monitoring calendar, this is one of the reports that we give y'all, I think twice annually, in regard to reporting the progress of making classroom walkthroughs, appraisals of instructional staff, et cetera, here in Tyler ISD. Ms. Taylor?
Morning.
No.
Yeah, it's on.
So yes, Dr. Crawford's correct. This is our fall update of our T-TESS process that we have with our educators. Just a reminder that T-TESS is a collaborative and open relationships between students and teachers and administrators. And the goal is to move from a teacher-centered classroom instruction to student-centered classroom instruction. We do have 3 components of T-TESS, and they are your professional development, goal setting, and your evaluation process. With the evaluation process, we have informal walkthroughs, which are your informal observations, which are the walkthroughs. We have your formal observation, and that has three components to it. As a district, we've opted to do an announced, which means you have a pre-conference where the principal and the teacher will meet, discuss the lesson plan and what the principal can expect to see in the classroom. And then you have your observation and your post-conference where they review what they saw and ways to get better to improve their teaching craft. This slide shows the total number of walkthroughs that we have completed in the fall. It's broken down between elementary and middle school. Administrators are to complete 4 walkthroughs per year, and that is 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring. And that's the minimum. They can do however many walkthroughs as they would like, and the more walkthroughs we have, the more growth we see with teachers. The next slide is our total observation data in the fall. As I stated before, they have to have at least 1 observation. They can, again, do as many observations as they see fit, and with that, any observation after the announced one can be unannounced. And the goal of that is to see any feedback they gave in the walkthroughs to the teachers, the feedback from the announced observation, or are we seeing it in action as the year progresses with an unannounced? All of the walkthroughs and the observations will be averaged into a summative rating for the teacher, and that's their end-of-year rating. And what we can use for that is growth opportunities for the teachers to look for in the summer to help improve their instruction for the following year. So by monitoring all of the walkthroughs and observations and having these conversations with teachers, we are seeing a growth in our instruction in the classrooms, and we're seeing improvements with our successful student outcomes district-wide. So any questions on the walkthroughs and observations?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Do we have any questions?
Any walkthroughs?
Walkthrough questions.
In regards to the evaluations, you said that they set up a plan based on the particular teacher, and they monitor that plan to see if there's adequate growth in that particular area. So if there's not, who determines if there's significant growth? I guess I should start there. Is it HR? Is it the principal? Is it a collaboration, or how's that determined?
It's a collaboration between the principal, the chief school improvement officer, chief innovation officer, the supervisor over that campus. But it's also a collaboration with the teacher, because an aspect of the observation in the post-conference, they get to choose an area of reinforcement and an area of refinement. And you try to tie that into your next year's goals as well, because by giving them that choice and that option, they get to choose where they see that they need the most growth to have their biggest bang for the buck with the education and growing their children.
So most of the teachers should be aware of where they stand with their teaching skills, et cetera, with the principal and the campus and everything.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's nothing unexpected that from that aspect that they receive regarding their skills.
Correct, sir, because they have those ongoing conversations with all of this.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
I'll make a comment about T-TESS. Did you ever teach on T-TESS?
Product of T-TESS.
Okay. Certainly completely different than the old PDOS system, to where it was more of a Likert scale, and you just went in and kind of circled and might have made a comment or two on each domain. It is truly a more rigorous appraisal system than what we previously had, no doubt about that. I think it coincided with the commissioner, the new commissioner coming on board nearly 6+ years ago. So, talk about a process as opposed to a one-shot stop in a classroom. I think it's improved instruction across the state of Texas. I don't think anybody likes it because it is pretty meticulous and time-consuming to do it differently than we did in the old PDOS days. So it's one thing that we certainly are cognizant of, but the end goal is to improve student outcomes, similar to like reading academies. Getting through that is certainly a pretty rigorous process, but at the end of the day, it is designed to improve student outcomes, regardless of where your campus is at, whether it's a struggling campus or a high-performing campus. There is always continuous improvement to be had by everybody that is involved in education.
Exactly.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Thank you for your report there. And now we have a District of Innovation certifications granted.
per the board monitoring calendar and as agreed upon in our District of Innovation agreement that was committee-driven, that is now up for recertification this year, that the board will see here fairly soon, March, I believe, okay? Ms. Taylor will stay at the table since the DOI is a function of Human Resources Department. So, Ms. Taylor?
So yes, we began the fall having 129 individuals that were on DOI. Currently, we have 125. It doesn't seem like we've moved much, but we have. We've had several that have been able to go to standard certificate. We had an influx where we've hired new teachers in, and those that have just recently graduated or going through the program, we've had to put on DOI because they haven't had enough time to complete all their certification tests. So yes, it looks like we haven't made much movement, but we have. We have had several that have come off and have a standard certificate in the class.
Okay, any comments or questions regarding the DOI or District of Innovation?
So you mentioned a lot of these are new teachers, like new to the business of teaching.
Yes, sir. So we have had a few from graduating from universities that are new to teaching and excited to be here.
Okay, because it's a good many classroom teachers, and it's not only art or some music or something. So I know it's been hard, finding certified teachers for every single classroom, but yeah, it would seem a little scary if there's not some reason behind it. We're not just pulling people off the street and putting them in a classroom.
Correct. They have to meet the qualifications with a bachelor's degree, or in CTE's cases, they have to have experience, field experience. There's
And they
a
have to
lot
be
of
working towards
qualifications.
certification the whole time?
Yes, sir. For most of these positions, yes, sir. And we stay on top of them.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand the concern, but there's a lot of information in the media about, I think 60% of teachers are considering leaving the profession. It has been difficult 2 years, certainly, but it's been more than just 2 years. It's been a 5-year thing here for us since we stepped into the DOI world. One being is this board approached me about 5 years ago, maybe a little bit over that, about why we had vacancies, and those vacancies were filled by substitutes teachers. Not all of them degreed, certainly not all of them retired teachers that might have certification in the industry, but actually folks that did not have a degree whatsoever. And certainly, you got to come up with strategies. We're about to hit the recruiting trails. I think it's about to be recruiting season. We've got 20 recruiting visits, 20-plus recruiting visits lined up. We're always going to try to find a certified teacher that has chosen this profession to do so. The next best step on that is to go out and find a degreed individual that might have some content expertise, and then we support them with classroom management techniques and growing them as well, and then get them to pursue their certification. So it is a balancing act right now as all of the state of Texas is trying to compete for certified teachers when it's becoming more and more difficult to find them. We've had conversations with higher ed about their teacher education program. It seems like they're making their money more on graduate degrees, online graduate degrees, as opposed to pumping out teachers for our classrooms. And that is a problem that needs to be addressed. Some of it is, compensation and salary, but a lot of it is also quality of life and having the right people say good things about the teaching profession. And we certainly right now are going through an era right now to where we are villainizing educators in general and trickling down to the classroom. Classroom teachers used to be held in very high esteem, and our teachers are feeling it right now. And so, every visit that I've had over the last month with our teaching staff, I've looked them in the eye and told them how proud y'all are of them and how proud our administration is of them, because it has been a tough go at it here. So that's one reason you're seeing this, is that we're trying to plug holes that y'all encouraged us to plug over 5 years ago. It's the best strategy we can come up with right now, aside from going and finding a rock star certified teacher to put in front of our kiddos.
Thank you, Dr. Crawford. I agree with everything you said. I think also I want you to know the board supports you and the administration continuing to enforce discipline in the classroom. You know, I hear and have heard again this year that for some of these young teachers, that the quality of life when there is with discipline issues is not worth being in the business. So we want to continue to support you in making sure these classrooms are places where a teacher can teach and that disruptive students don't ruin it for everybody.
Yes, sir. Our philosophy is that one bad acting student, and that does happen, could happen to my own kids, does not disrupt the quality of education or the educational experience for the other 20-plus kids in that classroom. I will say, I will make a plea that we need help at home. It's incredible right now, and a lot of it is a struggle statewide. This is not a Tyler issue. We're responsible for Tyler, but this is not a Tyler issue. But we do support our teachers, and we will continue to enforce discipline inside of the classrooms. Again, if they don't feel that way, go talk to the principal first, and if we can help them from central office, we would be more than happy to take a phone call or an email to see what we can do to help reinforce the expectation that comes from this dais and from the superintendent's chair.
I agree. I think that we have an excellent educational system. Well, almost excellent. We're working on improving. Because I had to clarify my comments anyway. I agree with Mr. Burfield. I think discipline is a concern, and I think that we need to continue to address that from all perspectives, because the classroom is a learning environment, and if it's out of control, they can't learn. So we definitely have to stay on top of that. I had a question regarding the 92 that's waiting for certification. Now, all the individuals that we hire have a degree, right? The 92 people have degrees already.
Yes, sir. The
Maybe not in
certification-
education, but a degree.
Yes, sir. The certification that we're waiting on is the certification test. So
Okay.
it's the test that they take
Okay.
to get their standard cert.
Okay, now, the test, I assume, take into consideration that some of these people probably have difficulties as far as maybe language barriers or whatever. Do they give them extra time or whatever to complete those exams?
They have 5 chances to pass the test.
5 chances?
Yes, sir.
But no
Each
extra
test.
time? Are they timed? I guess I should ask that.
Some might, not really. They give them
Okay.
time, but
Okay. Because
It's
I know
a
some are
half a
timed
day.
in some aspects of the perspective, and they will give the person an additional time frame to complete the test if they have difficulties as far as a language barrier or whatever.
And
So that's what I was
they would have
concerned
to make a
about.
plea to the
Right.
aspect for that.
Are they aware of that? Do y'all kind of reinforce that in some aspects?
The program, the Teach for Texas, the programs that they're going through will let them know that as well. So
Okay.
it's just like with any student, when they're in a university, go through a program, if they have issues or need added support, they work with their institution on that.
And they can take
help them.
this exam, you said four times?
They have up to
5?
5. Yes,
5?
sir.
That's good, okay. Good, great.
One comment and then one piece of information. First of all, clarification, just want to make sure, on the CTE end, those are not all degreed professionals, correct?
Correct. They
Okay.
have their
So
certification.
the state of Texas, Matt Schaefer, our local representative, worked on this bill quite a ways back in regard to that. You know, someone's going to teach plumbing may not have a degree in plumbing. So they do have some credentialing, workforce, workplace credentialing that does count the same as if a non-degreed person. So want to make sure we're clear on that in the CTE world. But when you start talking about teaching English or teaching mathematics or science or social studies, those folks have a degree in regard to that. Okay, so it's
Thank
the
you.
trades that sometimes may not have a degree in that as well. But they have usually some type of credentialing or certifications that they got to go through with the state that could qualify them. The other thing I'll talk about is we've got a growing initiative of a Grow Your Own program here with Texas A&M Commerce. Why don't you just describe that just real briefly, Ms. Taylor?
Sure. So we've actually been working with 2 institutions, Texas A&M Commerce and Grand Canyon University, to work with our paraprofessionals, those that are interested in becoming teachers, to where they can keep their job and go to school and get their degree. It's all online. And for example, Texas A&M Commerce, it's a 7-week course, and each 7 weeks they pay $750. They get to control how quick they go through the program and how much they pay. The more classes you take, the less you're going to have to pay in the end. And you can take however many courses in that 7 weeks, and it's straight $750 for them. It also allows them to stay in their job, in their position, and go and get their alt-cert program as well. So you get your degree, and then you go the alt-cert route. We had our first information session February 7th, and it was with Texas A&M Commerce. We had 48 individuals show up in person, interested in the program, and 56 reach out total to us wanting more information, who are interested, current employees in this district who are interested in becoming teachers. So we're trying to grow our programs from within and put those paraprofessionals that have been with us, that know the students, that have been with Tyler ISD, and give them what they need to become successful educators in the district.
Just to make sure I understand, you had mentioned about the individuals on the CTC campus. They're not included in the 92 as far as certification, are they?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
and there's not a
Okay.
whole lot of them, but we just want to make sure that anybody's on I'm not a DOI, but not all teachers are there, because there are some exceptions there into certain programs. Again, manual trades, welding, et cetera. Although a lot of those folks do have degrees, there could be an exception in there.
And that's the 14, where it says CTE teacher, that's 14.
Right, I think that's not included in the 92.
Correct, yes, sir.
As to be expected, as it is an exceptional program we have over there.
It is.
Okay. Nobody else has any other questions or comments? We'll move on to our class size update. Thank you for your
Ms. Taylor.
presentation.
Another part of the DOI is to report our class size updates. We do this twice a year. Tasha Bjork will have a microphone for any questions in regard to that. It's in your packet on page 10. She's going to make her way to the presentation table for any questions that you may have. But as you can see in your presentation packet, 18 classes require teacher aid support, and the 18 classes are over by a total of 32 students, which is pretty minuscule and shows how tight our budget is and our projections are at the beginning of every year. So again, having fidelity to the 22-to-1 ratio in grades K through 4, when those get exceeded, it triggers an aid assignment as well as there. And again, it's for 32 students. Just a little history for the new trustees on here. It was pretty significant about 9 years ago, and it began being worked upon before I arrived here in Tyler. And certainly we've continued to stay steady at about these numbers about every year. Tasha, you want to add anything on that?
As a point of reference, it's dropped a little since October when I presented. In October, we had 29 classes and 51 students. So we've dropped down 11 classrooms, because it was probably just one kid keeping it over, and if they moved to a different campus or moved away, it went down. So and also, if we were to fill all these teachers, it would probably be $700,000 to $800,000 for 32 students. So that's kind of why we do this, because it's just fiscally responsible, and we put an aid in each class. Any questions?
Anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
I do, of course. Okay. This is one of my items I really always come in on, the classroom size. And we talked about discipline. We talked about teachers controlling the classroom. And I visited some of the classrooms, and the teachers and the student ratio of 22-to-1 is kind of bad at elementary level. When you have kids that's out of control and they're trying to teach that classroom in regards to controlling the kid and teaching those individuals. And the aid definitely helps. I am a strong supporter of having aides in the classroom and aid suggestions regarding that. But I think that we really need to look at that in regards to if there's something we can do internally, even to do a study and actually see if it makes a difference in teacher satisfaction, student achievement, even if we have to do one classroom at a time to actually see if it will make a difference. You know, we've had a lot of kids still struggling with getting the fundamentals, and I think that we need to really put that as a priority as trying to see how we can make a difference in those individuals' lives. I know a lot of it has to do with family, but we are responsible for that when we have them 8 hours a day. And I want us to be able to look at anything we can to make a difference in those individuals' lives. And if it's a possibility that we can take one classroom and actually look at that one classroom for a half a year or a whole year and seeing how much difference it'll make academically, comparing one that don't have that with the one that do.
plenty we can look at,
So
like
that-
11 and 11 in classrooms, so we
Okay.
can review that.
So that's my stance. I think that we need to really emphasize that and see if we can come up with a workable plan that will help us to reduce this achievement gap that we have with some of our classes. And, you know, I just feel strongly about that, and that's why I always mention something when it comes up. We do have that opportunity with the DOI to reduce our class sizes. We don't have to get it approved through TASB or whoever. So we can do that internally without having to get anyone's approval and see if we can make a difference, because we really need to work hard to do that. You know, that's part of the reasons we can't get that A rating that I'm asking for within the district, because of that achievement gap and the kids that's falling behind. So I think we really need to put a lot of emphasis on that and seeing what we can do to make a difference in that so that we can excel overall and be the best school district in the state, which I think we're very capable of doing. So that's just my push from that perspective. And okay. I'm
You
good.
mean like lowering the class size?
Lowering the class size, even, I'm like, say, even you take one class and you reduce the class size to, we say 22 to 1 now, if we can do 11 to 1, if we can do 15 to 1, if we can reduce that class and study it over a period of time and see how much difference it actually make academically, and if it does make a positive difference, great. We go in that direction, we work toward doing that so that we can get our achievement gap decreased. But if it doesn't work, we look at other avenues. I talked to Dr. Hanson a number of times about this, and she knows how passionate I am about it. So, and I'm just appealing to the district to really be almost as passionate as I am, but not, I don't expect that wholeheartedly, but I do expect, hopefully you can understand where I'm coming from in regards to it, because we have so many kids that's falling behind.
And if you want to look sometime at our class sizes, we have a lot of classrooms that are 15, 16, 17 in the smaller schools.
Yeah, well,
And
I can appreciate that,
there-
but we need to be
a lot
looking
of
at if there is a difference between those class sizes and how
Yeah, and that can
academically
be
they're
looked at.
progressing. If we already have that, comparing it, seeing if there is a difference, and see what that difference is, so that we can apply that to the other classes that's not achieving it. That's all, you know. And I think that research is great, and I think that's what we should be doing, because we have the capacity to do that and academic ability to do it. So we just need to push forward more so that we can decrease that achievement gap, whatever means possible. And of course, from my perspective, I always think of the ratio first, but whatever it takes to make sure that we can decrease the achievement gap is what I think we should be doing. And I think we're very capable of doing it. You know, so, and I would like to see us going in that direction.
And I think more so it's from experience, that it's not just the ratio. Even research shows that you can have 2 kids in the class and they still not be
Right.
successful. So I've had 35 in the class and I've had 8 in the class. And it's discipline, it's the teacher, it's who's doing the job and the results from that. So it's not necessarily class size all the time. So we should look at more than just class size. It's not just class size all the time, because it's the person that's in front of the class as well.
And I have a great appreciation for that. And I think that there are some other areas that we need to look at. And I think that we need to do more testing to see if there's reasons that those kids are not achieving. And I know that we do quite a bit, but I think that, you know, all those aspects come into play. It's not just classroom size, but it's the number of people that's actually targeting those areas that we have that we know are deficient. And I think that we need to put a lot more emphasis. We're doing excellent in those areas where we're doing achievement. Early college, man, we're excelling. You're ranking very high in the state. So I'm not saying that that's not important. I'm just saying I'm concerned about the achievement gap, and I want us to put just as much emphasis and resources and et cetera into those individuals that's struggling. And we may have to put more because that's a target area. What parent does not spend more money on a child that's falling behind in their family? You're going to spend the resources you need to help get that kid up to the level they need to be. And that's all I'm saying, that the district should be doing that as well. You know, we have a target area that we know is struggling. We need to be putting all our heads together and all our resources targeting those areas where we're struggling so that they can achieve as well. I'm not saying that we're not doing things already. Dr. Hanson, no, I've been talking to her and addressing it from all perspectives. So I'm just saying that I want the whole district to feel as passionate about this particular area as I do, because that's the area that's keeping us from being A-rated in a number of aspects. That's the primary area, not the only area, but the primary area. And that's what we need to really concentrate on. You know, ratings are not the only thing. It's actually how much the kid get out of the educational process. But ratings does make a difference. It attracts people to the district. They want to come to a district that's A-rated. They want to go to a campus that's excellent. So those are the things I'm talking about. And I know we have the resources. I know we have the capabilities. We just need to target those things and direct that emphasis a lot more, I think, from my perspective. You know, I'm new.
Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Burkeville?
Thank you. It's good. It looks great to me. We've been seeing these reports for years and years, and I appreciate your efforts to get them reduced to the number that they are. Thank you.
I'd like to say basically the same thing. I want to commend your efforts in reducing the numbers here. I mean, even from the beginning of the year, you said 29 classes and 61 students. Well, halfway through the year, we're down this far. And years ago, when we started the District of Innovation, we knew what was needed, and the studies were shown at that time that help was needed in the areas where there were too many students per teacher. And I appreciate the amount of studies and the amount of time and effort that's been going into it. This looks pretty good.
Anybody else? Okay. Dr. Crawford and everybody, Tasha, I also want to commend everybody on, to Mr. Newsom's point, a good educational acronym that we have internally that I think we approved, gosh, was that last summer, the LIFT, L-I-F-T, Lightning Improvement for Tyler, which dedicated a lot of resources towards maybe some of our struggling subpopulations. And not only on top of that, I think there was a longer a program that's taken a little longer just because it's through the state, but a teacher incentive program that incentivizes higher pay for teachers to go into some of those struggling campuses. And I just wanted to be noted that actions have been taken to address some of those issues. And the last thing I'll say is that in our budget, how many students do we have in the elementary level? Probably 9,000, about half of our population, maybe? No, not quite.
9,300, I think.
9,300?
Yep.
Okay. Well, in that population, there are a certain amount of classrooms, correct, and a certain amount of teachers. So once, I mean, it does sound great to, hey, 11 to 1, but, you know, that's cutting everything in half. So that's doubling the amount of teachers. 85% of our current budget goes to our teachers, right? A lot. So when we talk about these things, we have looked into them before, and there have been studies done, and I'm not saying it's not worth looking into, but what I'm saying, that is a huge, massive expense if you were to go to that. And then you're talking about facilities, right? So all of our elementary campuses only have so many classrooms. If we double the teachers, that basically means we have to double the amount of facilities we have. So I mean, it sounds good, right?
Yeah,
But there are factors that go into this. So I just want to get that on the record.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify and make sure that you understand what I'm asking for. I'm not asking for every class that we have and every campus, even every classroom. I'm saying that we look at it on an individual level. I even started with even maybe one classroom. It wouldn't cost that much money to do that. You know, I'm very conservative, more conservative than most of you probably. But so I'm very cautious about spending money. But when it comes to the areas that we're having deficits in that we need to improve, I'm not going to be conservative in that aspect. I want to make sure that we address it and address it adequately without increasing significant costs across the entire district. I'm looking at 1 or 2 classes, one class, if we're willing to start with that and look at get the academic data from that particular study to make adjustments accordingly, not on grand scales.
Duly noted. Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, thank you. Okay, well, now it's time for executive session. I don't think we'll have any action to follow that. It doesn't appear so. So we'll now go into executive session.